Alright. I can get you guys a solid gig. Matinee tomorrow, doors at 1, you guys are on at 3.
Like the 8 rights from Washington, D.C. You guys are hard to find. Why no social media presence?
Music is shared live. It's time and aggression. You gotta be there.
Sorry guys, we gotta clear out. Follow me?
And then it's over. Holy shit.
I told you to follow. Hey, stop! No!
You can't keep us here. You gotta let us go.
We're not keeping you. You're just staying. We're so fucking dead, guys.
What do we do? Oh, shit.
This will be over soon, gentlemen.
You're coming.
We gotta go.
And we die.
How long can we wait? How sure that is?
Is that a pep talk? Just grab some shit, get ready to run.
Here we go.
Bad moon horizon. I see trouble on the way.
They're everywhere!
You breathing? Let him bleed.
Careful now.
I can't die here.
So don't.
It's fucking hard, man.
This is Brian with ScreenFiles.com and Review. What I'm looking at today is Jeremy Saulnier's Green Room. Really good movie. It's on Netflix. Check it out. Though, what interests me more is why it's such a good movie. What's interesting about Green Room is that it doesn't feel like a traditional movie in many ways. The whole antagonist-protagonist role is a little murky. That's very interesting because it gives it a very naturalistic type of feel to it. By which I mean, there are clearly bad people in this movie. And I don't mean to imply that that relationship doesn't exist. Though, as I said, it's not quite as clearly laid out. It's not like an old cowboy movie. Good guys would be in white hats, the bad guys in black hats. So, that gives it a dynamic, a feel to it that's really interesting and not something you come by a lot. For instance, the movie revolves around this band, and, I should mention the movie stars the late Anton Yelchin as one of the band members. And they travel from place to place playing gigs. They're not the most successful band, but they seem to love what they do, so they just keep doing it. So they have this gig in this club filled with very racist Nazi types, and they happen to witness a murder. And this sends everything into overdrive. Just stuff goes nuts. But that's the thing, though. Saulnier has a very naturalistic way of filming things. And so it doesn't feel like these are the good guys. It just feels like they're people in a situation beyond their control or even understanding, at least initially. And that's really interesting because while you don't want them to die, you don't root for them either. At least I didn't. I just wanted them to get out of this situation. They didn't turn into superheroes. They didn't seem, frankly, any smarter than anyone else would probably be in that type of situation. And that's really refreshing to see. They use their wits. They do the best they can under extreme circumstances. Some instances not terribly well. But again, that's to be expected. they're not going to become, if this were a more traditional movie, these people would suddenly start acting like commandos. They'd have a grasp of all sorts of fighting techniques and whatever to get them out of a particular situation. This movie plays it very realistic. So there's one member of the group who's a fighter and is particularly aggressive. The rest of them don't know how to cope with this situation, and they make do. It's very interesting to watch, very refreshing, and again, it turns that whole protagonist-antagonist model on its heels a bit. In fact, for me, the highest compliment for Green Room is that it plays very similar to Deliverance, the John Borman movie. And both movies revolve around a group of people caught in circumstances beyond their control. More so than, haha, I'm evil dude, and I'm going to do whatever. There's none of that. They're bad people doing bad things, but their evil is not all-encompassing. It's not world-shattering events, really. It's just small evil, little e evil, for lack of a better term. Just people being people, in which case some people are going to be bad and be motivated by greed and meanness just to be mean, and you can have some that are not. For that reason, in particular, I really like Green Room. It's a great movie. Saunier has a movie on Netflix as well that he actually made for Netflix called Hold the Night. I need to have a look at that as well, because he's just an interesting director and definitely one to watch. And I should mention, it's violent. It's not a lot of violence, but the violence that's there is pretty intense, pretty hard to watch. It's not in the nature of a movie like The Human Centipede, which I have yet to see and I have no intention of seeing, but from what I've read, it sounds really disgusting, and that's not my thing. But violence in the sense of people being shot and stabbed, lots of it, but it's not gratuitous. It does happen at a certain point. It happens quite a bit, but at the same time, it follows the story. It makes sense. Another point I should mention, another thing that's great about this movie, I mentioned earlier, is that it's very naturalistic. The antagonist and protagonist line is a little bit blurry, which I like. Another thing, though, is there are no sacred cows in this movie. In a sense, you watch some movies, you know who's going to live and you know who's going to die. Pretty much off the bat. That's not a bad thing necessarily, but it takes away from that movie that you know going in that certain things are going to happen in certain ways. This movie flips that on its ear. So you can't necessarily say who's going to die in this movie at the beginning of the movie. People are going to die, no doubt about that. But you can't necessarily say who. They may be a big star, they may be whomever, but you can't necessarily predict it. And that's nice. And that's refreshing, because then you get real thrills, you get real chills, just from not knowing what's going to happen next. So, Green Room, great movie, check it out, it's on Netflix. This is Brian from ScreenFiles.com and Review. Peace.